All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are always excited when this gentleman joins us here on the Alouettes Flight Deck. You know him as one of the many fantastic analysts on the CFL on TSN. Alouettes Nation knows him as a 2009 Grey Cup champion. It is once again our honor and privilege to have the one and only Davis Sanchez joining us. Davis, welcome back yet again to the Flight Deck.
It is my pleasure. My pleasure to be here. And yes, most importantly known as Grey Cup Alouette Grey Cup champion, especially these days. That's carrying some weight these days. So I'm honored to be in that brotherhood.
Well, there you go. You talk about you know what it's like to win a Grey Cup with the Alouettes. There's a whole bunch of guys here right now that are just learning how amazing it is for the first time. I mean, how excited are you for these guys as they experience the joys of knowing that yes, I am a Grey Cup champion and a Montreal Alouette at the same time.
Yeah, I've always said that one thing about playing in Montreal is that the city is a city that loves what's theirs, and it's always felt like from my first day there that if you were an Alouette, that the city and the province kind of took you as one of theirs, and that was kind of it's different than other places I played. It was so I just thought that was special. So I could imagine these guys are having a blast, and I see them on social media, and it brings me back to some days back in '09, and yeah, good. I'm happy for everybody and the organization as well. Just happy that what was going on to be able to kind of turn it around and get things stable again, and then to have this ending is quite the shocker, but a good story for a province that deserves good football.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember because 2009 feels like a lifetime ago now, but when typically the Montreal Canadiens invite the Alouettes to come and celebrate the Grey Cup championship, were you part of the team, or did you go to that when in 2009?
Yeah.
Did you go to the Canadiens game?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I remember I started to trying to get the chant "Go Habs, go" going because the game was about to start and we were about finished going off, and I remember trying to get that going and just to get the hockey game and show the love back to them that they had showed to us. But yeah, I was there with the boys with Prue and Boulet, and I think we had a pretty good night after that as well, and Cox and whoever else was around with us. But Delorier was definitely a part of it, and all the boys. But yeah, we had a good. That was an awesome night and some fun times before and after.
One thing I want to ask you too, by the way, Davis, is that obviously every time the Grey Cup is around you, do you always have to point out to your TSN colleagues that, look, here's my name right here in the Grey Cup? You see, it's always going to be there.
I don't think I've ever done it, to be honest.
Oh, really?
No? I don't think so.
You've never done. I was going to say, you've never done that to Stiegel?
Nah, when the Grey Cup comes around, I try to just be quiet. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, just he feels like he's got it all. He thinks he's handsome. He thinks he's smart. He's got some street or something named after him, and I don't know. It's what he tells me in Winnipeg, he has a street named after him or something. But the bottom line is he doesn't have a Grey Cup, so he's just average. He's just average Bill Stiegel.
And again, there's no comeback to oh yeah, see this thing? Oh, yeah, right here. That's my name. That's my name on this thing.
Well, you can, as you guys know, Milt would have a comeback. Milt definitely has a comeback for that. He's going to come back for everything, and that's my brother. But we like to have fun.
Yeah. So
now we got to get a street named after you in Delta or something like that, right?
Well, forget Delta. I'm thinking more Montreal, but yeah. But
okay,
no,
all right,
yeah. I won't hold my breath.
A street or a park? What would you rather have?
How about a bar?
There we go.
Yeah, how about that?
Look,
yeah.
The Davis Sanchez bar. I like it. I like
something
it.
On St. Catherine, something on Crescent Street, I would imagine.
Well, they told me there is one on Crescent named after me, but it says Ches Paris though, not Ches Davis. I don't know.
That's
Ches
hilarious.
Paris. I never understood. The guys told me it was mine, but I never understood why it's called Paris and not Davis. But
Cliff,
I swear to God,
give context.
I swear to God, You think this city would get the spelling right, you know? They got the chess
right?
part, obviously, but
That's right. That's right. That's right.
man,
We
I
love
don't know
him.
where
We
they
love
get
him anyway.
Paris from Sanchez, but okay, maybe.
I was about to say, if Montrealers don't know what the hell we're talking about now, they better know, because it's kind of if you know type of thing. So, oh man. You were talking about, the whole storyline itself, Davis, when it came to the Alouettes, and obviously, the team and the players were always talking about, it was kind of an us versus them mentality. I mean, you being on the TV side of it, I mean, how much of it was a combination of just that, of us versus them mentality, or was it, I mean, did you really think anybody in the league was really looking down upon them, or was it just a matter of teams had the better record that were ahead of them, and you guys needed to prove yourself?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about them this year, the team right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
you said you guys, so I wasn't sure if
I meant his media. Sorry, I meant his media thing.
No, look, it's I find it, it was only Cody before the Montreal won. The only other person I ever heard really saying about, haters and doubters and all that was really Cody. I didn't hear a bunch of other guys saying that, and whatever Cody needed to do to fire himself up, it worked. So great. But I don't like it was for us. It was whenever that kind of came up, it was kind of like if I look at the roster before the season started, this is credit to Jason Moss, credit to Danny, credit to Anthony, credit to Noel. I mean, credit to the whole staff, Eric Delorier. I mean, these guys. When I look at the roster, their roster was just it was at the bottom of the league. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you could say whatever you want, haters, picking us ninth or picking us eighth. And, it was Ottawa, it was Montreal, and they were by far the two worst rosters in the CFL, and there was not a question. So when people picked Montreal ninth, it wasn't because they were haters. Haters, it just was because they were the worst team on paper. And so it is what it is. But the game's not played on paper, so who cares? And so it's that whole haters and no one believed in us and all that. I mean, I think that's just self motivation. I don't think if you actually step back and look at it and honestly, I don't think you're gonna think people are hating on you. They're just gonna realize that that's what the roster was. But imagine with that roster being able to take it to where they took it this year, and that's like I say, commend. Hats off to all those guys I mentioned and the whole organization and team because they were coming from a deficit for sure, and then they were able to pull off the miracle.
And what's really incredible too, like I guess you could say if that's how you got what it takes to motivate yourself. I mean, you do what you got to do, but I mean, there really was a lot of disrespect in the sense that this Alouettes team, they weren't ninth place last year. I mean, they were a converted touchdown away from going to the Grey Cup in 2022. It's just that with all the shambles of the ownership changing hands and certain free agents leaving, all that. I can understand why a lot of people would think, okay, well, this is not going to be a good team. Oh, okay, I'm getting the timeout.
There's no quarterback. I mean, one main thing you're missing is that Trevor Harris left. That's the difference. Trevor Harris is gone. So there's a big when you talk about the offseason and there was a 2-point conversion away. But if they had no quarterback, if you watched Cody Fajardo play last year, he sure as heck wasn't good enough to lead this team on this roster to a Grey Cup with the way he played last year. But that wasn't the same Cody we saw in the playoffs this year. Cody was awesome, and I thought he was great. So, look, I don't think that anybody was wrong for thinking that. If you look at what the roster looked like, and you're looking at, I don't know what your feelings were before the season started, Cliff. Maybe you knew that Cody was going to play at a high level and no one else did, but or you Jason and Danny knew, but no one else did, or no one else believed at least. So kudos to you.
Well, I was very much in a wait and see kind of thing because, again, at this point, I think Danny Machocha had built up enough street cred, if you will. He showed that he can build a winning roster because, again, they were this close to going to the Grey Cup. So, I mean, yes, there's obviously changes are going to be made. There's a lot of players that you're like, who the hell is this guy? And then they end up becoming superstars. That's just, credit to the system, credit to the organization and how they run things, and the belief that they have that these guys would become superstars in the Canadian Football League. It could be any number of those things, but I mean, yeah, it does speak volumes to how this organization is run.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
You look at Jason Moss coming over, and obviously Cody coming over from Saskatchewan. I mean, Davis, how do you look at these basically these two men, two different years? Because Saskatchewan basically had the exact same season as they did 2 years in a row. They lost 7 straight to end the season, back in 23 and in 22. But do you think it was that much of a change of location and scenery that really made these guys, I guess, become the Alouettes and the players that they ended up being at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the CFL. It's really, and this is football in general, but it's the CFL especially. It's really who's hot at the end of the year. I mean, if the Alouettes played the way they played at the end of the year, and they got hot, the defense was playing out of their minds, and Cody was doing enough. I mean, if you look, let's go back to the playoffs. Like, I don't think, being fair, I don't think we look at what happened in the playoffs with their offense and Cody and think, oh my gosh, like, who would have known they were so great? They weren't great. They were far from great offensively. They weren't even good offensively. I'm an Alouettes fan, and that's my team. But I'm also real and honest. They weren't great, but they did enough to win. And that's the one thing I've always said about Cody in particular, is that he's a gamer, and he's he'll do whatever it takes. I think he's got a skill set that he knows his game, he knows his skill set, and he plays to it. And I think he saved his best performance for the biggest game, and that's really all you need to do. And you guys might remember back in 2000 when we lost to the BC Lions in the Grey Cup. We were a much better team than them, but Damon Allen basically put the team on his back, and they beat us. And that was just a guy who was 40 years old, but saved his best performance for his last, and he played out of his mind, and they beat us. And that's happened. It happens all the time. In the CFL, it happens all the time. The best teams don't always win. It's not like baseball or basketball where it's best out of 5 or best out of 7. It's one game. And I think the Owls got hot at the right time, and they believed in themselves.
It's incredible how you said it best. I mean, just different, same situation, just different teams, different players, different scenarios. But I mean, yeah, I look at this past Grey Cup, and yeah, there are a lot of similarities to the BC Lions and Montreal Alouettes teams that were there back in 2000. It's uncanny.
Teams, and it happens. Look at the past. You can look at the past 10 years. It's Toronto's done it a couple times. BC's done it. Ottawa's done it. They've won the Grey Cup with teams that are either 500, below 500, just over 500. And there's over the last 10 or 12 years, I bet you it's 5 or 6, 7 times it's happened. So it happens.
Yeah. No, it's. So it's I guess Regan's saying don't necessarily. It all seems to be it's a narrative. I mean, as I said, you're being fair. You're being fair in every way when it comes to Cody and the team itself. It's. I mean, I'm sure you could look at the all the years that you've been with TSN, and even as a player, you can look at different streaks that you've gone, certain things that have really set the tone for what type of team you were on, whether it had been a good team, a bad team, or even a mid team. Because most of the year we were calling Cody consistent Cody. Didn't mean he was a good quarterback, but he was consistent. Right. So, and it's true. The O was just horrible earlier on in the year. When you go streaks where you can't score an offensive touchdown, that's not good. That's not good football.
Right. But yeah, I will end it with this, or not end it, but I would say this, that in regards to the quarterback playing, you have to respect it. Now, even after what I saw right now, if I'm drafting quarterbacks to start next season, he's not going to be in my top 3 or my top 4 or top 5 probably. But you have to respect that. You have to respect that. In the biggest game, he played, and he played. He was lights out, and And so I think you have, there's a confidence there. And maybe next year, now that that confidence there, and him and Jason have continued to build kind of what they do well together, and what this offense does with him, and tailoring it to his skill set, maybe that's a different story next year. Maybe he's my number 3 or top 3 quarterback next year after next season because of what he does. But it doesn't matter. All that, who cares? They're great. He's a Grey Cup champion. He's the MVP. And Montreal are Grey Cup champions, and it's a beautiful thing, and no one can ever take that away from you. You can tell me that whatever you want about what happened in the Grey Cup or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, I always tell guys this: no one asks how many interceptions I had in my career, or how many times I was an all-star, or how many times. No one asked me anything about personal accolades. I could have been a third-string cornerback, and not even dressed for the game, or been on the kickoff team and not played on defense, whatever it is. No one knows and no one cares. They just ask one question. All they ask is one thing: did you ever win a Grey Cup? Do you have a Grey Cup ring? And the answer is yes. So it's and to be the starting quarterback, there's only a handful of guys, or maybe not a handful, but there's not a whole bunch of guys that can say they were the starting quarterback and an MVP of the Grey Cup. So just all respect to.
Absolutely. Now let's switch to defense. I mean, this defense this year was nothing short of outstanding, and credit to Noel Thorpe for getting these guys to play like lights out football. Who did you see as a cornerback? I kind of have a feeling where this might be going, but I want to hear from you. Who do you think had the most outstanding year defensively for the Alouettes?
Gosh, I mean, for me, I where I go. I always go right to the defensive backs, but in particular, I think their group of outside backers, I think were special. I think that you look at some of the stuff that you saw from Stubblefield, from Beverett. I mean, those guys were, and they came out of nowhere. We talked about guys that we didn't know a whole lot about, like Beverett, Stubblefield. Those guys came out of nowhere. Who else did I think was? I mean, obviously Dequoy, but that kind of goes without saying. He's been the guy that everyone's been talking about, and I think Dequoy was a great story because the fact that he's Canadian, the fact that he's a local kid, and he's shown. And I think at the beginning, people just thought he was a Quebecer and one of Danny's guys, and that's why he was kind of getting a lot of attention. And then he proved, he kept proving over and over again that he was deserving of all the accolades he was getting, and I thought that was great for me to see. I was wondering, he had my good friends Matthew and Etienne on his T-shirt. I was a little disappointed in that I should be on the T-shirt with those guys. A little disappointed. So maybe tell Mark to check to go back to the history of his Canadian DBs and give a little bit more love to. Maybe I should be on that shirt with those two guys. And plus, I'm much better looking than those two guys anyway. So. Well, should put me on it. That's probably why he didn't put me on the T-shirt, because he didn't want his girlfriend or his other people to see me on the shirt, and so that's maybe why. But I sure those are obviously two of my good friends.
Or maybe he just didn't want to put Ches Paris on there, and just insult you further. Yeah, that's good. He may be trying to save you from yourself, though.
yeah, absolutely. But great story. And I thought, it's and I won't get into the political part of it, but I thought, watching his passion and his emotion after the game, and that was it kind of gave me goosebumps. I didn't know what the heck he was all fired up about, and I learned a little bit about it afterwards. But just the passion was, like I said, minus the political part of it, just the passion that he showed was special to see.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I think people should be taking away more than anything else is, I understand where he was coming from with a lot of it, but yeah, like you said, the passion, just that. I'm sure he was thinking about his mom, his late mom as well, and just I think that
absolutely
everything just kind of comes to a head, and in a moment like that, you just go off, right? You lose control of your emotions, and especially too, he puts his heart on his sleeve every single day, and he just that's who he is, and you got to love him for it, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, I became a big fan, and I love when guys, you know, there's a lot of pressure on him, and all eyes are on them, and he just seemed to, similar to Cody. He just played better and better as the stage got bigger and there was more eyeballs on him. He played better and better, so I became a fan. I've always been a fan of Ciante. Ciante is a vet in this league who's been good for a long time, so I've always been a fan of his. And Christian Matt, a guy who I've known for a while, and I'm friendly with, a great Alouette, and also very well deserving of this too. I was happy for Christian as well, and so yeah, there's lots. I mean, all the guys I've learned their stories. Guys who I don't know, I know most of the guys, or I've met most of the guys, or some of the guys, and just the story. And even, you know what, to a point, a big part of it is Danny and Jason. I mean, you look at these guys, and you know, you guys know the deal. Like, they're, especially Jason kind of being pushed out, and obviously didn't end the way he wanted to end, and then Danny, a lot of folks, and especially folks that some of my colleagues definitely thought that when Danny got rid of Cavis, and who else did he get rid of?
Hari.
Hari, that he was doing that to slide himself into that head coaching role, and then we proved wrong that wasn't the case, and I think he kind of proved himself, and that he was being honest, because he'd said all along that wasn't the case, and I think a lot of people thought that was BS, and it wasn't, and it was true, and he's he's done a great job. So I'm happy for him too, and happy that it all worked out.
Yeah,
have you
definitely.
You ever been on a team, Davis, where a team has brought in one or two players, around mid-season that made such an impact that, Darnell Sankey and Sean Lemon did for this team? Because sometimes there would be ego, sometimes there would be, I'm a longtime vet, but it just seemed to work really well, and they gelled really well with the rest of the defense, and we saw what they did for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was a fit, right? Usually if you're bringing someone in, it's because you're at that time you're decimated or whatever it is, and I would say they weren't decimated at middle linebacker, but it was just such a huge upgrade. Just Sankey, just such a good player that was big for them. And then the other one was I think Lemon was, you saw that the Owls just could not get pass rush, like the first half of the season or longer. They just couldn't get to the quarterback, and it was evident. It's like, how are you going to play defense when you cannot get to the quarterback? And then, I mean, week in, week out, we kind of talk back and forth with Sean. Sean communicates with us kind of a little bit, and we knew Sean had teams that were interested in him, but who was going to bring him in? And it was 1 week, and then 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and no one brought him in. It's like, is this guy really going to get signed? Like, he's been so damn productive. And then they bring him in, and he just continues to make plays when he needs to. And some guys just have a knack. Some guys are just special. And to answer your question, I don't think I've seen that that big of an impact especially from two guys. No, not that time of the season. I can't, not that I can remember. Maybe one, but I can't think of two. That's for sure.
How about have you ever had a situation where a player comes into training camp, a young kid, plays his ass off, does a fantastic job, gets cut, strictly a numbers game, gets brought back and wins a Grey Cup or wins a championship, like Reggie Stubblefield? Like, to me, that's probably one of the biggest stories this year with this Alouettes team. And there's plenty of them, but this story to me is still, I still shake my head in disbelief at how it all turned out.
Well, I mean, that means he wasn't good enough to be your number 2 or your number 3. And then he ends up being one of your most valuable players on defense. So it's impressive. And just how I didn't know a lot about him. Even at the beginning of the year, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to him through halfway. I probably didn't pay attention to him until the last half or the last month of the season, to be honest. And then just like, wait a minute, this kid's, I kept hearing people talk about him, and then you realize he's got some ish to him. So he plays with attitude. He plays with instinct. He's a football player. I don't even know what position he is. I mean, I know when he plays in the Alouettes, but I don't know what position he would be, because he's kind of a tweener, and but he's a football player. It kind of reminds me of Tim Strickland a little bit. For those who remember Tim Strickland, because he's a hell of a football player, and he was fun to watch.
Yeah, no, just as I said, as when we do our year-end episode and we talk about all the stories within the story, if you will, like he's definitely going to get a lot of attention because it's been absolutely outstanding, and he is loving and embracing Montreal, like much like you have. Like it's just that he gets it. You know what I mean? Like he gets like what it means to be a Montreal Alouette, and it's great to see.
Yeah, it's him. Yeah, it's like too, and we were saying the other guy too that has a huge story clip that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is KB and Ento, a guy that you and I were just reaming on because he was getting burnt left and right, and then there was that one game versus Toronto, and then the bye week, and then all of a sudden the switch flipped. Something happened, and switched sides of the ball, and look what he did. He saved the Alouettes in the Grey Cup not once but twice. Because if he didn't bat away the ball in the end zone or get the interception, that game could easily have gone to the Bombers.
It's a big time plays. And I was talking to Noel Thorpe. It was the walkthrough. So Saturday afternoon, the walkthrough, and he actually, that's the one thing he said. Asked Ento walked by, and I talked to Ento for just maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and Thorpe said, "Kid's got some great ball skills." And it was funny, and they were definitely on display. That was a big time play, game saving play for sure.
It's funny. We saw him in training camp. The scrimmage game that the Alouettes do every year. He played like his hair was on fire. Like he was like, and I even said to Coach Thorpe, like, "Where'd you find this guy? This guy's incredidible." And then the season gets underway. He makes the roster. He gets in there, starts playing, and it's just like, maybe we were wrong. It just didn't. It just didn't work. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was just the scheme. I do remember Coach Thorpe saying that he was switching him from boundary to field side. And that apparently made a difference. But I mean, in your opinion, do you think that could be something just as simple as that makes the difference in a player?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see him earlier or study it, but I could definitely see his skill set being. If he's going to play off coverage, if you're a boundary corner, he's tall and he's long. If you're going to play off coverage, you're better off to play field corner if you're a tall, longer guy. If you're going to play in the boundary, you probably need to go up and play press. And there's only a handful of guys that are, if you're a tall guy and you can play press in the boundary, you're probably not going to be in the CFL. You'll probably be down south making a lot of money. So yeah, it's a play to play the field corner, to be long and rangy like he is. You can cover a lot of space, and it just allows you to use that length to react. So I could see a difference for a guy like him to be, more, have more success and more suited for the field if you can really use that length. You can cover a lot of ground he's a gifted guy. So I would put him over there and let him use that skill, and that's probably what happened.
Yeah, and boy, talk about way to finish the season. Like the Eastern Final, he gets a pick 6 against Chad Kelly, and as Tim just mentioned, the outstanding game he played in the Grey Cup itself. I mean, once again, you're talking about the stories within the story. It's magical, quite frankly.
So many of them. Yeah. What are the boys doing out there? Are they having some fun, or what's are more guys now choosing to stay there for the off season? I assume. Once you win a Grey Cup, it's like
Quite a few guys have gone home, but there are a few that are still out there. Was it Tyson Philpott, Reggie Stubblefield? They actually went to the Quebec National Assembly with the other French Canadian players and got saluted by. So I'm saying like it's got to be a trip for someone like Stubblefield to go there, like kid from Texas, and he's like, everybody there is like hardcore French, and he's like, he's sitting there, he's taking it all in, he's enjoying it, and I think he had a good time at the Canadiens game as well. And saw he was getting inked as well. Him and Beverett were getting inked, so I'm like, you got to celebrate the Grey Cup. I guess that's what you do now is you get tatted now. So they're living their best life here.
Do you still have that tattoo on your lower back, Cliff?
No, that we got rid of that one. we don't talk about that one.
I think Stanbeck's still here in town too. Him with his entire family. I mean, I'll give a good example here, Chaz. Is that we've talked about how people become part of Alouettes Nation, and you're always going to be a part of Montreal, and no matter how much or how little time you spent with the team. He may have left last year, but Gino just came back. Gino's here all year round. So, and he just returned back from Edmonton for his off season. So, I mean, I love the story, dude. I mean, I wish as many players for the Alouettes could spend more than just just a regular season here. I mean, it's like yourself. I mean, it's like, I'm sure you learned so much about the city. It's how you made your name in the city and stuff like that. So it's just like, if you have the chance, just stay in off season. Yes, it may be cold. Maybe from Texas, you may have never seen snow before, whatever. But still, it's just a part of the experience of getting to know, where you play. And I'm sure where you played, you always try to get as much of an experience as you're hoping that these players do too.
You're spot on, and it's a blessing, right? And that's, we were joking about my colleague Milt Stiegel. It's one of the things we talk about. We've talked about it often, and it's that he was able to play in the same city his whole career, and that's one of my regrets. Is I left. I mean, obviously leaving for the NFL. I had to do that. That's not an option. But twice I left in free agency. We just couldn't agree on some numbers at times. But I mean, the amount of money that I left for, the legacy of playing in the same city I played 11 years in the CFL, and to play, all 11 years in Montreal, and really, I think that would have been, that's the one regret I have for sure is not spending, my whole career there, and if I can, and you can't always, like, it doesn't always work that way. If it's, guys got to take care of their families too. I saw a post that Gino had on social media the other day talking. Somebody had asked him, made a comment about him and how's he feel about not being in Montreal and blah blah blah, and he talked about his family and having to take care of his family, and that's part of it. We can't always, and sometimes teams don't want you, and that's also the case. So, but I would say this: whenever I tell guys, anyone that ever asks me, I have a chance to talk to guys, I always say, if it's for a couple $1,000 and everything's close to equal, I mean, try to spend as much time as you can. And Tim, like you said, it's to be, in the fabric of a city and try to, be a part of it. And then the blessing of having, a city embrace you and a team, an organization. And it's as much as it's business, it can be family if you treat people right. You do things the right way. The people in the city will love you and take care of you as long as you treat people right over the long haul. And I think if you can do that, I think it comes back tenfold. And I think it's free for any of our players' lives. I think it's always a benefit.
Oh, I think a plus for you too, Dave, is that you were here with the Wettenalls, and just the names the Wettenalls who made here in Montreal. Sure, Mr. Wettenall may have not been making all that money if he was making any money. But the thing is that he became part of the lexicon. He did it right, and that's the Owls really have over the past couple of years. It hasn't happened. COVID came, and then now it finally seems. We got a local owner again, and PKP seems to be. We got his sophomore season coming up. It's funny to say as our owner, but it seems to be that PKP seems to be doing everything right, and it's just a whole giant PKP effect. But that's what you need. Just be treated right. And again, it's you'll make a name for yourself, not only in the CFL, but in the actual city that you played in. So
I will say this to touch on the Wet Dolls, but it's they were so good. You'll find the odd people that are, what was it like in a negative way? What was it like to play in the CFL? Like, did you guys were you treated well? I've heard stories, and I just stopped them, like, time out. I played for Bob Wettenhall, and I was treated first class. Larry Smith, Jim Pop, Bob Wettenhall. I was there for 8 years with those guys, and we were treated amazing. I played with the University of Oregon. I played big time college football, as big as it gets, and I played in the NFL, and the way we were treated in Montreal was as good. Obviously not as big of a crowd and all that stuff, but I would say being, how we were treated, as good as anywhere I've been. And it all started with the Wettenhall family, and they were amazing. They were great. So.
Yeah, I feel like over the past few years, like that Alouette way, for lack of a better term, kind of got pushed to the wayside. But now I feel with the ownership of Pierre-Karl Pelado and the work that Danny Machocha has done to build this roster, I mean, he said he wanted to build a Grey Cup winner, and it took him 3 years to do it, which is not bad at all. But I feel like now that this team is back on track, like we're back to establishing that winning culture and not accepting mediocrity. And to me, I think that's what's going to help keep this team going for years to come. Not just the fact that a billionaire owns a team and you don't have to worry about the bills being paid, but the fact that now people have fallen back in love with the Montreal Alouettes. And to me, that's what's going to keep this team successful for years to come.
Absolutely, and I love all the local players. I think that's great. If I'm building any slack that Danny or Eric or whoever's signing players, Jason gets for signing 1 million Quebecers and Montreal kids on the team, you're clueless. You're absolutely clueless, because I would build the team exactly the same way, and I'm a West Coast kid and have nothing to do with it. I would build the team the exact same way, and that's you can get as many kids that are local as you can on that team, as long as they're as good or better than the other guys you find, and then keep doing it, because that's what it's all about.
You're from your lips to God's ears, Davis.
What before we let you go, Ches, what's your off season like? I mean, you're done now, TSN. Obviously, it's you guys can be coming together at all during the off season. I know there's not the whole hullabaloo with the the schedule release and yada yada like they do for the NFL and stuff like that. But what do you have planned for the off season?
Yeah, we still do. We'll do free agency and we'll do in the off season moves, and there is no off season. Slow down till after till January, February. We'll slow down with the CFL stuff, but once February goes, we'll start looking at the college kids and the draft and start and keep going there. But there's the off season's a short window, because we'll start. There's always news, and that's our guys. Mostly. Dave Naylor and Farhan Lalji will take most of that stuff, and those guys are, as you guys know, they're on it every day. They're working on it today probably. Those guys don't sleep, so they're on it. I'll do my NFL stuff. Doesn't stop for me, so I keep going through NFL stuff, and as CFL news pops, I'll be on that, and I'll be involved in the draft and the free agency as well.
What got you into the whole, I want to say, betting aspect of things, as far as props and things like that? Like what got you into that more than anything else?
Oh, my whole life. No, I've always loved it. I've always been, I've always looked at NFL fantasy and betting, and it's just been something I've always looked at. I was a poker player. I love poker. I've always loved betting and gambling, and as soon as it became legal, and I know it, so I've been around it since I retired, and so I know the game, and I understand the industry, and it's a great fit for me. It's just something I would be, if I wasn't working in football, I'll be doing that full time anyway. So I'd be doing sports and football betting, and that would be that's my passion. That would be my career, whether I was involved in TV or not. So it's just something that I'm passionate about, and I spend today was an off day for me. I spent 8 hours watching Bailey Zappi film and Mitch Trubisky film and looking at stuff for this weekend. So it's just I just love it, and I'm knee deep in the coach's film and looking at every angle of everything and looking at defenses, and it's just what I do, and I love it.
Wow, that's dedication to sit and watch Bailey Zappi film and Mitch Trubisky film. Sorry, Tim. Tim's a Steelers fan, so I actually kind of feel bad for him right now. So.
Yeah, well, I feel bad for him too. I watched the film, and Pat Freiermuth is the only one getting targets. As I studied looking at my props for tomorrow, it's the only one I could even think about looking at on an over was Freiermuth. I just also, hey, let me ask you a question, Tim. If you're a Steelers fan, Deontay Johnson, catches a touchdown with 3 minutes left in the game, down by 14, I believe.
They were down by 14.
More.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, and he starts dancing and doing a celebration by himself, and then I think someone joined him. But as a fan, I know what my thoughts are as an analyst and as an ex-player and just a guy watching. I forget about that. Just a guy watching football. I know what my thoughts are. What were your thoughts seeing a guy celebrate like that, down by 2 scores with 3 minutes left?
Well, that's it. And obviously, it's not the CFL where anything can happen in 3 minutes. Yes, but yeah, with the way it's funny how much the Steelers actually mimic the Alouettes offense earlier this season. It's just so bad. You don't do that. You don't do that type of garbage. I mean, come on.
This guy was dancing. Yeah, for those who didn't see it, he got a touchdown with 3 minutes left in the game. Down that made them down 14, and he went off into the whole dance by himself. It was just. And I'm not like an old, like, get off my lawn old man here. I like to have fun. I like to have fun and let it loose. But to me, that just, seriously. To me, it just showed me a guy who is unaware of the situation that his team is in the game, and he's worried about himself. Like that to me, I was pretty disgusted by it, or not disgusted, but I was actually embarrassed by it. Like, this guy's embarrassing right now. I'm kind of mortified.
Well, yeah, especially when you have your starter going down who's not doing all that well. I mean, and we don't know how long, Pickett's going to be out for because he had his ankle surgery and stuff like that. And Trubisky really hasn't made a name for himself either way, considering the past 2 years. So, yeah, stop that garbage. If you have a chance, if you're within 3, maybe. If you're within 3, maybe, sure. Okay. But other than that, stop that. Even in the CFL, you don't pull that garbage. You don't pull that garbage at all. It's like, I'm sure, I don't know why Coach Tomlin just didn't pull him aside and say, dude, come on. I'm saying, look at the clock. Look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, I bet you after the game, there was a conversation.
Yeah. As they say, act like you've been there before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. Davis, we love having you on here, man. We appreciate every time you come on here. You bring it every single time. If you're not following Davis Sanchez, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, shame on you. But Davis, if they're not following, how can they follow you on social media?
Yeah, I think I'm just at Davis Sanchez on all the platforms, the Tickety Talk and the Instagram and the X Twitter stuff. I post all of my betting picks and all the fun stuff that we do, and I don't do enough of social because I'm just lazy, but I do love football, and more importantly, or as importantly, I love the Alouettes. My favorite, the place I've been longest in my life in any job, any sport, anything is in Montreal, and I was blessed to be an Alouette. It's part of my heart and my chest, and so thank you guys for being so good to the team and organization, and doing what you do for Owls fans as well. So, and a lot of love. Thanks for taking the time to have me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Once again, Davis, thank you so much, and looking forward to 2024. It's crazy to think, but yeah, it's let's enjoy this moment. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, the next season, get up here faster than you think.
Listen, let those guys enjoy the off season.
Yes, we will.
100%. Love back at you, Davis. We really appreciate we appreciate you, buddy.